have a right to place camera from which my player will see, and then I can go ahead with the perspective. I can see my level to the perspective of player. This helps me to understand that how much detail I need to put in my environment, how much my player will see and what objects are close to it. And the last is, it makes sense to go for approval process because I already finished 50% of my environment. If I don't do it right now, I might end up, not achieving my goal or destroying my deadline. So the next thing will jump to a low poly modeling. On the reference of my high poly model, which I have already made, model and textured, I can just go and achieve my cellhood, shape of the my props. I don't have to worry about anything. I can keep your mesh flow very low as much as possible, and you can just get the shape of my high poly model. Once it is done, all you need to do is unwrap entire this thing model, and just bake your texture from high poly model. Now this is where high poly texturing really works. You have one object which is already there, and you can make as much copy of low poly model you want. You just bake it, you don't need to repaint it again. Once it is done, this is my low poly model. I'm pretty sure you cannot make difference between a high poly and low poly model, and there is no trick involved in this. Once it is done, you need to go for an optimization. Okay, now this is another task. You have a high poly, low poly, and then an optimized version of it. The reason is very simple. You can see object on your image on your extreme left has a side which is visible to your player, and the right one is a side which is not visible. So just delete all the polygons which are not visible to player. Anyway, it shouldn't interfere with the FPS. So end of the day, it is going to be played or interacted in your game engine. So it's preferable if you delete it. And don't underestimate the power of optimization. This is it. High poly was 3,352 tries. My low poly was 67 tries, and my optimize is 752 tries. Okay, and this is my real in-game models which I have just print screen and put it there. So this is what really happens. And since I have my low poly, I can again go back and do some optimization in case if I have some kind of changes to be made, orientation. Suppose I have deleted few faces of my object and I want to change it, so I can go back to my low poly and create another version of optimize. The next thing we can do is create a relationship between the game element. Now, this is another good feature you can add up, once you are through with all the low poly model or all the asset you require for game, your environment making, start creating relations between them. In this case, you can see some paper scattered over there. In this case, water is splashed on a floor. Now, the reason while doing it, I am just trying to fool player by creating this kind of, you can say, doing this kind of cheating. So he believes that these two props are part of the game. Something has happened over there. Some kind of brawling, fighting has happened over there. Okay, like you just show some broken chair and broken ropes and all those things. So just try to create this relationship. It is fun part, and it really enhances the aesthetic value of your game. So once you are through with this is the time you enlighten your level by switching on some lights. So let's go ahead with that. There are few things which you need to really remember before you go for switching on light in your environment. And the first thing is light can make or break your game. Okay, make no mistake when you are really baking some light in your game. See, baking your light in your game is simple thing. You are actually putting your light information in your textures. This is the alternative for time when you cannot use a real-time light, which in our case was the effect. So you just need to understand that a good light can make a level look good, but a bad light will destroy a good level. So you just need to understand that. The second thing is it should really support your game concept and style. If it is a realistic game and you give a realistic light, it's good. But if you're making a game for the kids and you're showing them a hard shadow and a very sharp light, that doesn't make sense. It should be a softer light and proper, with a proper intensity. So it should really support your game style. And shadow is also important. If you people have ever, noticed this, with respect to daytime or the intensity of sun, your shadow color and intensity changes. So if you take care of this small thing, it can be of a great use while creating that visual appearance. And last is fixing light manually. Now this factor is really important because we are making a virtual world. Most of the objects are not as close as they appear, right? So there are chances I might, enter the shadow or some kind of light intercept may intercept between them. So it's better you go ahead and fix them manually if required. So this is the two version. The one is without light, and to the extreme right, the level with the light infused in the texture. There is no real-time light involved in this. And this is my final level. Well, it was supposed to rotate, thank God. Okay, so this is the same light. You can see entire view of all the objects. The objects which are close to the level are detailed, like the objects which are pretty far are just put into texture and done with achieved with some matte painting and all those things. And you can see the center area. This is where the actual fight will take place. Once you are done with entire optimizing and baking and everything, your level is ready. This is the time for doing some packaging work. Packaging is nothing but putting a finishing touch to it. The first thing is going for a final approval. Since your high poly was approved, I'm pretty sure you won't have any problem, in approving your low poly model. And there are some small and internal approval going around throughout the process, just to keep you on a track. Then you can export and view your entire object into the exporter. Export your entire game into the game engine and view it, because this is the final destination of your asset. Once it is done, you can also do one more thing, put all the usable item into the library. For example, some textures, some objects are there, you can definitely put it to library, which you can reuse next time. You don't need to unwrap them, you don't need to model them. And freezing the game assets, it's an important aspect of art developing. You need to end what you started, so that you don't keep playing in the same loop. So once it is done, this is how your game with respect to Bruce Lee was done. Okay. Then the next thing which I would like to discuss is why we need art pipeline. I was just talking about art pipeline, workflow and all those things, but why do we exactly need it? There are a few simple reasons to it, and you all will definitely agree to it. The first thing is to estimate the execution and production time, production cost. If you know what one level will cost you in respect to time, you can actually judge for 100 levels. That's a universal truth. So to know, in order to know what one level will cost you, you should know the workflow. For this particular part, it will take 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then you can calculate for entire level. Since environment or art production, it takes lots of time in game development. This thing is very crucial. For balance and standardized quality, many people are involved. There is usually a team working in the environment and art production. So it's very wise, So because all of them have different skill set and all of them have different working style, you might end up getting, same concept art, but then they might end up getting different version of it. And this is usually happens. So if you have a standardized way of working, you might get a same standardized output. And obviously to meet all the requirement of the game, what kind of textures you need, how much poly you can afford, and all those things are involved in it. So if you have a proper way of going, it really helps you. So this is where entire art pipeline development process goes. And the last thing what we are really going ahead with is, okay, don't call security, I'm going to finish it. Yeah, some thing which I will really like to discuss in short. Before developing any art pipeline, just analyze your game in detail, right from the technical and the visual aspect you want. Understand all the technical constraints, like how many, make some dummy level and use it, so how many polygon you can support and how many texture you can support. And the last thing is you can introduce new tools and technique in your art pipeline. This really helps artists to grow and keep them from getting bored of what they are doing from long time. And last thing is, make it less complicated. They will really enjoy it. It's possible have a fixed approval process so that you don't get into a loophole of making art again and again and again. Okay, so this was a fast enough, I hope. This is where I end my presentation.